Moreover, President Trump has authorized the United States Navy to destroy any Iranian fast boats that attempt to put mines in the water or disrupt passage through the Strait of Hormuz, to shoot and kill. Our commanders have clear rules of engagement. If Iran is putting mines in the water,
shoot to kill. 3 words from the Pentagon. On camera. Directed at a sovereign nation's military forces operating in their own regional waters. Let that land. This wasn't a classified memo that got leaked. This wasn't a congressional hearing where someone slipped up under pressure. This was a man standing at a podium in the Pentagon with the full authority of the United States government behind him, announcing live shoot-to-kill orders against Iranian military personnel, and then comparing it to drug interdiction in the Caribbean. Like it was routine. Like it was Tuesday. Now here's what I need you to understand before we go any further. The United States is not at war with Iran. Congress has not declared war on Iran. There has been no authorization for use of military force passed for this specific conflict, this specific operation, or this specific blockade. None. What there has been is a president who decided on his own that Operation Epic Fury was happening, that a naval blockade of a sovereign nation was happening, that the seizure of ships on international waters was happening, and then sent his defense secretary out to brag about it on camera. And the media largely moved on. So let's not move on. Let's actually look at what Pete Hegseth said at this briefing. Because when you slow it down line by line, what you're hearing isn't just tough talk. It's a White House that has committed American military forces to an undeclared war and is daring anyone to stop them.
Wars of the past that dragged on for years and for decades with little to show for it. Operation Epic Fury has delivered a decisive military results in just weeks. Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, as the president has pointed out, all took years, decades. Vague missions, shifting sands, little to show for it. Operation Epic Fury has been laser focused from the very start, as I've said to all of you. Clear mission objectives, and ultimately Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. It's a bold and dangerous mission, a gift to the world, historic, courtesy of a bold and historic president. That mission continues today, in this new phase, as Iran has an important choice, a chance to make a deal, a good deal, a wise deal. As part of that effort, the United States has imposed an ironclad blockade that grows more powerful by the day. From the Gulf of Oman to the open oceans, our Navy is enforcing this blockade without hesitation or apology. Now, as usual, there's a lot of false information out there. I'll say this, every ship that the U.S. believes meets our criteria, either Iranian ships or to and from Iranian ports, has been turned around. As of this morning, 34 total. Non-Iranian vessels are allowed to transit, and many have, including overnight. Not only is the blockade growing, in fact, a second aircraft carrier will join the blockade in just a few days, but this growing blockade is also gone global. Just this week, we seized 2 Iranian dark fleet ships in the Indo-Pacific region that had left Iranian ports before the blockade went into effect. They thought they'd made it out just in time. They did not. We seized their sanctioned ships, and we will seize more. Our blockade is growing and going global. America's military is unmatched, projecting power, denying passage to adversaries, and protecting our interest at the time and place of our choosing. No one sails from the Strait of Hormuz to anywhere in the world without the permission of the United States Navy. To the regime in Tehran, the blockade is tightening by the hour. We are in control, nothing in, nothing out. Iran's battered military, the IRGC specifically, has been reduced to a gang of pirates with a flag. They cloak their aggression in slogans, but the world now sees them for what they are: criminals on the high seas. They don't control anything. They're acting like pirates, acting like terrorists. They're the ones who lay indiscriminate mines, who shoot at random ships, who killed 45,000 of their own people, innocent protesters, in the course of weeks. Their own people. They are the bad actors. The vessels that the Iranians seized in recent days, a couple of them, they're not American ships. They're not Israeli ships. They're just random ships that drove their little speedboats up to and shot at those ships with AK-47s. Anyone with a speedboat, a gun, and the wrong intentions can do that. They know that we, the United States of America, control the flow of global shipping. And we know that they know. Their real navy is at the bottom of the Arabian Gulf. It's worth saying again, for 47 years, Iran has been at war with America, killing our citizens, our soldiers, and our allies, while previous administrations looked the other way. The real endless war is the war that Iran has waged on us for 47 years. President Trump is the only president with the guts and moral clarity to finally do something about it. I see it every day behind closed doors. President Trump's fortitude is unshakable, and his mission is crystal clear. President Trump said it again yesterday. We have all the time in the world, and we're not anxious for a deal. And I hear him say it every day in private as well. Iran knows that they still have an open window to choose wisely. As we said previously, choose wisely at the negotiating table. All they have to do is abandon a nuclear weapon in meaningful and verifiable ways, or instead they can watch their regime's fragile economic state collapse under the unrelenting pressure of American power. A blockade, as long as it takes, whatever President Trump decides. Because the bottom line remains the bottom line. Iran will never get a nuclear bomb. The choice is theirs, but with this blockade, the clock is not on their side. Moreover, President Trump has authorized the United States Navy to destroy any Iranian fast boats that attempt to put mines in the water or disrupt passage through the Strait of Hormuz, to shoot and kill. Our commanders have clear rules of engagement. If Iran is putting mines in the water...
Did you catch all of that? Because there's a lot happening underneath the surface of that briefing, and it goes by fast when it's wrapped in flags and fighter jets and the word historic every 30 seconds. Let's break it down. First, the comparisons. Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. Hegseth invoked every major American military failure in the last 80 years to set up this contrast. Those were messy, vague, endless. This is different. This is laser-focused. But here's the question nobody asked him in that room. Those wars, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, what did they have in common? They all started with confident men at podiums telling the American public that this time was different. That this time the mission was clear. That this time we'd be in and out. That this time it was historic. Sound familiar? Second, the blockade. Hegseth confirmed that the United States has imposed what he called an ironclad blockade stretching from the Gulf of Oman to open oceans. He said 34 ships have already been turned around as of that morning. He said a second aircraft carrier is joining. He said they seized Iranian ships in the Indo-Pacific, ships that had left port before the blockade even went into effect. Under international law, a naval blockade is considered an act of war. Not a gray area, not a technicality, an act of war. The United States has imposed one without a declaration of war, without congressional authorization, and the Secretary of Defense is at a podium calling it a gift. Third, And this is the part that should genuinely alarm you, Hegseth said, and I'm going to quote this carefully. We have all the time in the world and we're not anxious for a deal. Think about what that means in practice against a regime that Hegseth himself just called unpredictable pirates who lay indiscriminate mines and shoot at random ships with AK-47s. And the man running the Pentagon's message is standing there saying, we have all the time in the world. Who has all the time in the world? The people actually in those ships? The families back home waiting for a phone call? The sailors who are now operating under rules of engagement that say fire first, no hesitation? They don't have all the time in the world. They have whatever time it takes for one miscalculation, one Iranian speedboat that gets too close, one mine that drifts the wrong direction, one nervous trigger finger on either side to turn this into something nobody in Washington is prepared to manage. And then there's Europe. Hegseth didn't just warn Iran in that briefing, he went after American allies. He told European nations publicly to, and I'm paraphrasing minimally here, stop going to fancy conferences and get in a boat. He said the Strait of Hormuz is much more their fight than ours, and that the era of free riding is over. Now put aside for a moment whether you agree with the underlying sentiment about burden sharing. Focus on the timing and tone of that message. The United States is currently running a solo naval blockade of one of the most strategically sensitive waterways on the planet. American ships are actively seizing vessels. Shoot-to-kill orders are in effect. And the Secretary of Defense is publicly telling NATO allies they need to do more, while simultaneously running this entire operation unilaterally, without consulting them, without building a coalition, without even pretending to want international cover. This administration wants the credit for going it alone and wants allies to join when things get hard. That's not leadership. That's a protection racket with a press conference. Here is what we know from what Hegseth said himself on camera at the Pentagon with full authority. The United States has imposed a naval blockade on Iran. That blockade is now going global. A second aircraft carrier is being deployed. Ships in international waters are being seized. Shoot-to-kill orders are active for any Iranian fast boats near the Strait of Hormuz. None of this was authorized by Congress. None of this was put to a public debate. None of this had a formal legal framework laid out in that briefing. What it had was the word historic used 4 times in a comparison to every American military disaster of the last century, offered as evidence that this time it's different. Maybe it is different. Maybe Iran blinks. Maybe they come to the table, abandon their nuclear program in meaningful and verifiable ways, and this whole thing ends with a handshake deal and a Trump Tower Tehran. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe an Iranian mine hits a commercial vessel. Maybe a fast boat gets destroyed and Iran retaliates. Maybe oil prices spike to $200 a barrel and the global economy shudders. Maybe a U.S. sailor dies. And then 10 more, and suddenly the president who said we have all the time in the world is facing a military escalation that has no clean exit. The Trump administration has been very good at one thing: making moves that look like strength in the short term and daring everyone else to figure out the consequences. That strategy works right up until it doesn't. And when it doesn't, it won't be the people at that Pentagon podium who pay the price. It will be the people in uniform, the families stateside, the workers who can't afford $10 gas, the countries downstream of a conflict they had no vote in starting. The administration called Operation Epic Fury a gift to the world. Gifts don't come with shoot-to-kill orders. If you made it this far, you already know this story matters, and you know most people aren't going to see it framed this way anywhere else. Share this video. Drop it in a group chat, leave a comment with what you think the media is missing, and subscribe, because we're not going to stop asking the questions that the press briefings are designed to bury.